Hello out there, you wonderful people. This is Andre, the Game Idea Guy. Thank you once again for lending me your time and your ear, listening into another Gamer's Thoughts video. And this time I'm going to be talking about two different things. But the first thing I'm going to harp on is, and it's not even the interview I'm going to talk about, but it's the responses and the miscommunication of information from the gaming media from the interview that the new Nintendo president had. I'm sorry. Like, I didn't get to check out the interview myself, so I'm not even going to talk about the actual interview. Just the quote that I remember reading that people seem to have taken out of context. And it seems to always happen with the gaming media. And then they wonder why Nintendo has done as much as they can to take their information out of your hands. Like, well, because think about it. That's why we have Nintendo Directs. That's why we had Iwata Acts for a good deal of time. That's why we have the presentations that they give us at E3 instead of, the full blown out live presentations that they used to do. A lot of the stuff that happened that Nintendo did is predicated on the way that gaming media would miscommunicate what they are saying. And that, if people really don't understand it, like, that's a really major thing. Like, because this keeps happening. That's why Nintendo doesn't go to gaming media as much as they used to do interviews or to present anything. They don't anymore because of how badly things that they have said or things that they have been things they have presented have been miscommunicated. And personally, for me, I understand fully why they do it. Because you got a bunch of idiots sitting here saying, well, he basically just told us that they're going to adjust to the industry. So I'm going to spin it and say, hey, Nintendo's leaving the console industry. Which was not said. And then you got people going back and forth talking about Nintendo leaving the console industry, but then yet you also want them to make a Nintendo Switch Pro. Playing both sides of the fence here, aren't you? I'll talk about that in a little bit, because honestly, that's something I actually want to cover. But dudes, seriously, gaming media, please do your job right. Stop misquoting things or misrepresenting a quote in a way that you know is not the case. This is why gamers have stopped trusting you so much. And we would rather go to YouTube with other gamers like us and hear them talk about things. Because gaming media, you guys have set yourselves apart as not being gamers, unfortunately, for the most part. So why should we trust what you have to say when quite clearly we can see the same information and draw completely different results? Seriously. Okay. Next item up on the table for me to talk about. The Nintendo Switch Pro. Okay. The idea itself, I'm not against. I really am not. But when there are so many people who harp on the Nintendo Switch about it not having the best graphics, not having the best frame rates, yeah, now get frame rates can be irritating sometimes. But if you got at least 30, you're generally doing good. Okay? That stated, people want beefier hardware in the Nintendo Switch. Not recognizing that the point of the Switch is so that you can take your home console with you. That's literally the whole point behind the Switch. So you can take your home console with you on the go wherever you want. And no, it is not a handheld. It has a handheld mode, which is not the same thing. As I have explained before with a video I called, The Philosophy Behind the Nintendo Switch. I've already covered this. But I'm going to reiterate. The Nintendo Switch is a home console. It plays like a home console. It operates like a home console. Yes, true, there is mobile hardware in it, but there's also mobile hardware in the Xbox One and in the PS4. So, what difference does it make? The hardware that Nintendo chose to use for their platform was so that they could get the best out of how they wanted it to operate, where you could take your home console out with you, but you could still play it the same way you would play it if you were at home. I don't think that that is hard to understand. I don't get why so many people don't register that. But then you have a lot of bigger YouTubers, and like, yeah, I know many of them are starting to become like the gaming media. But you have a lot of bigger YouTubers who will push this idea that we need a Nintendo Switch Pro. But guess what? If you're not happy with the Nintendo Switch, you're not going to be happy with the Nintendo Switch Pro because you're always going to get lesser out of that than you are going to get out of a completely stationary platform for your TV. You want to know why? Because you have to consider that it has to operate away from the TV. Duh. It's a simple concept. It's very easy to understand, and I still don't get why people are freaking so dumb. It's going to have a way to operate away from the television. And if you put beefier hardware in it, guess what that means? You have to put a better battery in it. You have to make sure that the cooling works better in it because more powerful, more capable hardware tends to draw more power, which more power means more heat. So they've got to do a lot of things to make sure that this thing won't burn itself out in a few short hours away from its dock. Because the dock has venting for it, but it doesn't have fans or whatever. Like, man, that's something Nintendo could fix. But again, that's additional cost. That's a higher price. And a lot of people aren't even there are people who complain about the Switch's price currently. And you want them to put out a Switch Pro? Are you out of your freaking minds? Do you you guys know how Nintendo prices things, right? They price things based on all of the functions that they give you, not just a few of them, all of them. Because Nintendo's going to, they'll give you a fair price, but it's not going to be fair in what your mind thinks is fair. And I know a lot of people are thinking, oh, hey, they put out a Switch Pro, it's only going to be $100 more. Likely not. Likely not if Nintendo does do that. And then on top of that, the hardware, again, you're trying to get PS4 and Xbox One performance out of a Nintendo Switch size device. That costs more money to do. And the earlier it's done, the more cost gets passed off to the consumer. So again, you guys aren't thinking about that. You're only thinking about what you want because you're insecure in yourselves for some reason. And I don't understand that. Why are you so insecure in yourself? You have tons of followers. These people have tons and tons and tons of followers, bigger followings than I may ever have on YouTube. But yet they're the ones more insecure about their purchases than I am. Makes no sense because you have a lot more people following you. You are more influential than someone like me. But you're trying to push this idea that something has to be done because you want it. And to me, it'd be a waste of money. I would rather Nintendo go ahead and just release a standalone version of the Switch without the dock for $200. Seriously. That way they can cut down. They can give you another entry level price to get in on it. Seriously, that's all they really would have to do. This really all they have to do. Give you a standalone version of the Switch that doesn't come with the dock or all the other cables and stuff. There you go. Now you have a lower price point for people to get into it. And if honestly, a lot of people probably will be playing their Switches off TV anyhow, they won't care. And then on top of that, that gives more incentive to people who want to have multiple Switches in their home. That gives them more incentive to pick up a second one. Not like there aren't people who haven't already done it, but I'm just saying it gives them more incentive for the people who just want to have the one dock, but want to have multiple Switches because they have Like, because they have other people in their family or in their house that they want to be able to play their games with. And some games actually require you to have a Switch per player, like Splatoon 2, for example. So, like, that to me makes more sense that they release a Switch without the dock and that just comes with the charging cable. It'll be smaller boxes, it'll be cheaper to put out, be quicker to ship to the market, easier for people to pick up, cheaper for people to get into, and they can boost the customer base and not divide the market based on their hardware. Simple solution. Because if they're going to build and make another machine, another upgraded machine, well, guess what I'd rather them do? Work on making a new platform, not just an upgraded machine. Like, work on a new platform so that you don't have to, in like 2 years, upgrade again. Like, I get that it's made with mobile parts, but it's not a phone. And it is also not a handheld, as I've stated multiple times. It's still a home platform. Whether you play it on your TV or not, it's still a home platform. It's still getting home console games. All right. I'm done with that point. Next point. Generations. Okay. I've harped on this before, like probably a couple years ago, but I'm going to reiterate it again and talk about this again for people who seem to not understand this. And it seems to be the same crowd that wants to Switch Pro that for some reason can't understand this. Generations are not based on technology. They are based on time. So, whether people want to admit it or not, the 9th generation had already been started when Nintendo released the Switch. Just like the 8th generation started when they released the 3DS. Yes, the 3DS is 8th generation. And that was what launched the 8th generation, was the 3DS. Whether people want to believe it or not. And if you want to say it for the home market, then yes, the Wii U was 8th generation. So if you consider the Wii 7th generation, next to the Xbox 360 and the PS3, those are all 7th generation. Why? And we're like, obviously the Wii U is 8th generation next to the Xbox One and the PS4. Just because Microsoft and Sony made more powerful iterations of their hardware does not make the Switch 8th gen or 8.5 gen. Like, there's no such thing. It's a generational leap. For Nintendo, the Switch was their follow-up to the Wii U. Would you consider yourself the same generation as your parents? No. Would you consider your grandparents the same generation as your parents? No. One came before the other. It's quite simple. That's all there is to it. It's not that hard to understand. They entered into the console market with the NES or the Famicom. That was third generation. Super Nintendo, Super Famicom, 4th generation. N64, 5th generation. The GameCube, 6th generation. The Wii, 7th generation. Wii U, 8th generation. Switch, 9th generation. It's not hard to understand, and I shouldn't have to explain this, but it seems like people are so stupid that I have to explain the simplest of things, which we all know to be the case, because people want to redefine things. Like, but then here's your problem. If you want to say something's 8.5 gen, then wouldn't that mean be the Xbox One X and the PS4 Pro, because they're still tied to the 8th generation? Instead of them actually being different platforms from the PS4 and the Xbox One? That makes more sense than to say that the Switch is 8.5 generation. Because the Switch is a different device from the Wii U. It doesn't do all the same things the Wii U did. It doesn't operate the same way as the Wii U. It's a different device. Yes, there are some similarities between the two because Nintendo made both of them. Why is that so hard to understand? It's like we have to change things to suit a perception that we want to be real, instead of just accepting the things that are true and adjusting to them. But I think I've covered what I wanted to talk about. Oh, no, 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 no. There was one more thing. One more thing. Slightly Mad Studios. You guys want to make a console when you couldn't put together a good game? You want to make a console? Are you out your flipping minds? Like, seriously, you think about it. They couldn't get the game that they were working on for so long to play right on any of the platforms that they put it on. But they want to make a home console? I don't know about that, Mr. Bell. I'm not certain I could trust that what you put out would actually be decent. To be fully honest, I think that what you would put out would be botched because your game has been botched. And Project Cars 2, I don't even want to know about that, to be, be perfectly honest. And the bad thing is, I was originally one of the people that backed the idea, or like, not financially because I was too late to that. Like, but I was one of the people who backed the idea of Project Cars because I liked the concept behind it. And then it became too commercial very quickly before it could actually even come out. And they couldn't put the game together properly to run the way that they wanted to run, even on the hardware that they deemed capable of running it. And on top of that, with all the bullcrap with the Wii U, even though Wii U was in all of the advertising for the game, and then they canceled the Wii U version of the game, and then blamed it, and then basically said it was never going to happen, even though they've always talked about having footage of it running on the Wii U, and then talk about how great it was on the Wii U and all that stuff. Like, a lot of that just soured me to them. Like, but there's no way in the world I'd give them the opportunity. There's no way in the world I would think that them doing a console under their current circumstances as a developer, I don't think it'd be a good idea. I really, truly don't think it would be a good idea. It just, to me, it sounds like, again, sounds stupid. Like, if you can't make a decent game, I don't know if you'll make a decent console. I mean, I could be wrong, and I would hope to be proven wrong. But something tells me I'm right. But I'm not going to harp on that too long. I'm done with that. So thank you guys very much for listening. Keep your eyes and ears out for more stuff from me. And until the next time, enjoy your games. Peace out, my folks. If I can get this to stop. There we go. Peace out.